Okay, so I'm going to use the Copic E34. Remember, if you do more layers, it goes darker. If you do the colorless blender first, then you're able to do gradations. And this is what I need you to do when you're doing your final project, the final version of the project. You're going to tape it down, and you see that we're in position with a guideline already drawn so that it's straight. So we're going to tape it down to this so it doesn't move around. And then I recommend that you put a piece of tracing paper over that to protect the drawing, because this is what happens as you work it. It goes through. This went through like this. So this kind of gives you an idea of what happens to it. All right, so we're going to start with just doing skin tones, and I'm going to do segments at a time. And since I'm using E34, which is kind of a medium value, I'm going to put the colorless blender down first. And I'm just going to put the blender over one segment at a time, leave the caps off. See, now this is coming from pencil that I had underneath that's starting to bleed in, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. And if I want to have a highlight, then I'm going to go in and kind of work the two together and leave a little more highlight on the side. This is the pencil from underneath. I'm going to show you what happened here just for future reference. This pencil is a colored pencil. That's the Prisma pencil. And so if you start to work into the skin tones and you have shadows drawn in there, that's what can happen. So that's the reason that I recommend that you use something waterproof or permanent, like the rest of the shadows I indicated with just crosshatch of Sharpie so that it's not going to bleed. But this is a perfect example of what happens. So then I'm going to go over the rest of the sections, one section at a time. This is the skin tone for the arm. We're going to leave the swimsuit white, come in here and go over this. And you see that I am working back over the top, almost in a circular motion, back over the top of what I had into here. We're drawing a bikini, so I'm going to go in and do this part. And the reason I'm just doing one coat first is that I'm going to make her skin tone all one value and then come back and darken it. So I'm going to move up a little bit. Here's the leg. So you see that I'm working this section, then going to the next section and going to the next section, and that's how you get a smooth tone. To the next section, and I'm going to work my way down into here, and I'm drawing a sandal that has a wedge, and so I'm going to turn this to the side so that I can clean up the edges just a little bit in a couple of places. Come over here. Same thing. So you see, I don't outline the whole thing first. I'm going to go in circular motion, and I'm working with the side. If I get too close to the edge, I switch to the tip. Now this upper area should be dry by now. We're not going to worry about this right now. Let's see, I can go back in and make it darker, get a little bit more shading. I'm going to actually make this arm darker all over because my light source is upper right. And we're going to come into here, a little darker underneath. And if I try to blend a little bit, and I can use the colorless blender to soften some of these edges a bit. Come in here and it's darker underneath the arm. If my light source is coming from the right, then my shadow is going to be on the left. And as we get farther away from the light source, it's going to be darker anyway. So I'm going to come down in here. Under the knee is a little darker. There's maybe a little bit of light on the outside of the calf. Into here. So I'm going to go back again and maybe do 3 coats, navel, a little darker, just a little darker, and again, if we get, I can work with the colorless blender and smooth just a little bit. So see, if I switch off and I leave the caps open. Okay, so to get the bright color, I'm going to use 2. I've got Rose Mist and I've got Crimson as the darker one, and so I'm going to use the Rose Mist to do the blending. So we're going to start with that first, and I'm going to come up here and put in one whole color, Rose Mist. Now I could let that dry and come back into it and probably get a little bit darker, but not a lot. But if I take something that is a similar color, just darker or more intense, I can use it to do the shading. And I'm doing the shading on the left side, under the breast, and I'm doing a lot of back and forth of the 2 colors. Left side. And I can take that up into the strap, because the strap is probably more of a red, and what's on the suit is more of a highlight into here. Then we're going to do the same thing with the bottom. Come in with the red. And some of these colors stain more than others. So you can see now what that actually looks like. And I am getting some picking up from this purple pencil that was under here a little bit as well. Okay, and I'm going to use brown and black at the end and white only for accents on highlighting. Now I'm going to do the hair and the face as a totally separate demo. So all I'm doing right now is the body and the swimsuit. So I'm going to start with the brown to adjust and maybe do a little bit of fine tuning on the rendering. Let's say that, you know, the navel isn't quite dark enough, or now remember, if you flatten off one side of the pencil, then you're able to render with it, clean off the debris, and then I can go in and I can render a much smoother kind of tone. So if I want to come in and do just a hint of accenting on this shadow, I can do that, and I can also take it up into the suit maybe a little bit. If I want to indicate cleavage, I'm not going to do it with a line, it's going to be a tone. If I want to do more of a shadow under the neck, now remember, this whole thing I'd have to get rid of. We'll come down in here. So this is, and I could also use a darker red if I needed to do more shading on the suit. At the very end, if I'm sure that I'm done with the browns, and the brown is really just to do some retouching on the skin tones. The very end, I'm going to go in with black to hold all the shapes. So very, very sharp black pencil. We're going to go in and now you see that I keep turning the pencil, accenting the lines, accenting the shapes, drawing in all seams. So let's say that there's a double seam here, and let's say there's a dart, all seams. And this is especially true when you have light colors that will not hold on their own. So this is what pulls it together. and makes it sparkle. Seams, especially if there are double seams, if that's part of the detailing. And on the leg, I see that my line is kind of thick and thin, and I keep turning it so that I have a nice sharp line. Come back up to the top of the leg. Ankle, and again, make these shapes clear, and we can have little toes which we can put nail polish on. I can do little red tips, or I can go in with pencil and do that. But again, it's the shape of the shoe. This is a wedge, so I have to clean it up. And you see that cleaning it up with the line, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit for you people in the class. Cleaning it up with the line is when you can actually see the shape of the design. Okay, so we're going to come over here again, across the knee. Now see, I felt like I needed to give her a little more calf muscle. Come into the heel. This got a little weird right here, so I need to fix that. The arch, and the shoe is not back far enough, so I'm going to draw that. I can go in with the red marker and fix that as well. Here's the ankle, and we'll do the rest of it. Okay, so I would finish up the rest, the arms included, with the black line. The white pencil is for highlights that didn't come through. So if I want to highlight a little bit on the top of the suit and give it a little more glow, I can go in with a little bit of the white pencil. Same thing here, especially if it's a shiny fabric. You know, let's say it really is a very shiny fabric. Well, then I'm going to create a lot more contrast, especially on the top of the shoulder, on the top of the suit over here, and that gives me a lot more dimension. Now, the thing that you're seeing is that my shadow pattern is continuing through the body, through the suit, and into the skin. So that's why it's important in your preliminary to draw in where the shadow pattern is. Okay, because then I know as I come here, I just pick it up when I get to the suit. Okay, stop.